bunch of new orders.
Well, if this keeps up, I suppose you'll be opening up a store.
That's what Ed was saying last night, but I said no, I want to be a dancer.
Oh, the only trouble about dancing is it takes so long. You've been studying such an awful long time.
Only 8 years. After all, Mother, you've been writing plays for 8 years. We started about the same time, didn't we?
Yes, but you shouldn't count my first 2 years because I was learning to type.
I think that candy's hard to nut now, Miss Essie.
Oh, thanks, Reba. I'll bring some in. Mother, I want you to try it.
Did you finish the second act, Miss Sycamore?
What?
I said, did you finish the second act?
Oh no, I've just got Cynthia entering the monastery.
She was at the Kit Kat, wasn't she?
Yes, but she gets tired of the Kit Kat Club. And there's this monastery, so she goes there.
Do they let her in?
Yes, I made it Visitor's Day, so anyone can come.
Oh.
So she arrives on Visitor's Day and just stays.
You mean she stays all night?
Oh yes, she stays 6 years.
6 years? My, I bet she busts that monastery wide open.
6 years later.
Mr. DePina.
Yeah?
Mr. DePina, will you bring out the new firework, please? I want to show them to Mrs. Sycamore.
Sure.
Look, Penny, what do you think of these new little firecrackers we just made? We can sell them 10 strings for a cent. Listen. Oh, nice, huh?
Yes, Paul dear. Oh, Paul, were you ever in a monastery?
No, I wasn't. Wait till you see the new fireworks. We got gold stars, then blue stars, and then bombs, and then a balloon. Mr. DePina thought of the balloon.
That's lovely. Did you do all that today?
Sure, we made up about... Oh, here we are. Look, Penny, what do you... We made them for 18 cents and we sell them for 50. How many do you think we can make before the 4th of July, Mr. DePina?
Whoa, we got 2 weeks yet. What day we gonna take that stuff up to Mount Vernon?
About a week. You know, we're gonna need a larger booth this year. Got a lot of stuff made up. Come on, we're not through yet.
Look, Mr. Sycamore, I'm afraid the power chamber is too close to the balloon.
Well, we got the stars and the bombs in between.
All right. Oh, but that's will give time for the balloon. Balloon needs plenty of time.
Come on, let's go down the cellar and try it.
All right.
Oh, Mr. DePina, if a girl you loved entered a monastery, what would you do?
Mr. Sycamore, I don't know. It's been so long.
Is Miss Alice going to be home to dinner tonight, Miss Sycamore?
What? Oh, I don't know, Reba. Maybe.
Well, I'll set a place for her, but she's only been home one night this week.
Yes, I know.
Miss Essie's making some mighty good candy. She's doing something new with coconut.
Uh-huh, that's nice.
So let's see. 6 and Mr. DePina. If Colin Cobb comes, that make 8, don't it? Yes, it does.
Reba, I think I'll put this play away for a while and go back to the war play.
Oh, I always liked that one. The war play. Boom, boom.
They'll be better when they're harder, Mother. But try one. I want to know what you think.
Oh, they look lovely. What do you call them?
I think I'll call them love dreams.
Yes, that's nice. Oh, Essie, I'm going back to the war play. What do you think?
Oh, are you, Mother?
Yes, I sort of got myself into a monastery and can't get out.
Oh, well, it'll come to you, Mother. Remember how you got out of that brothel? Oh, my, the snakes look hungry. Did Reba feed them?
Oh, I don't know. Reba, did you feed the snakes yet?
No, Donald's coming. He always brings flies with him.
Well, try to feed them before Grandpa gets home.
Yes, ma'am.
You know how fussy he is about them.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and here, take Groucho into the kitchen with you. Believe I'll have another love dream.
Mr. DePina was right about the balloon. It was too close to the powder.
Want a love dream, Father? They're on the table.
No thanks, I gotta wash.
You know, Mr. Colin Cobb says I'm his most promising pupil.
You'd think with 40 monks and one girl, that something would happen.
Oh, Essie! Essie!
I like that, Ed. Did you write it?
No! Beethoven!
Lovely. Got a lot of you in it. Oh, I made those love drinks this afternoon.
Yeah?
You can take them around tonight.
Alright. Here's the finish. This is me. Well, how's that?
Fine, Ed. Remember it for when Kolonkov comes.
Ed, why don't you and Essie have a baby? I was thinking about it just the other night.
Oh, well, I don't know. We could have one if you wanted us to. How about it, Essie? Do you want to have a baby?
Oh, I don't care. I'm willing if Grandpa is.
Let's ask him.
Labor play. Religious play. Romance play. I know it's in here somewhere.
I was right about the balloon. It was too close to the powder.
Oh, look, Mr. DePinna. Anything you want printed? How about some more calling cards?
No thanks, I got the first 1,000.
Oh, well, call somebody, will you?
All right.
What's for dinner, Reba? I'm ready to print the menu.
Let's see, cornflakes, watermelon, some of those candies Essie made, and some kind of meat I forget.
I think I'll set up in bold-faced Cheltenham tonight. You know, if I'm gonna take those new candies around, I better print up some descriptive matter after dinner.
Do you think anyone reads those things, Ed, that you put in the candy boxes? Oh, here's the war play. Poison gas. Oh, that must be Donald. Look at Reba smile.
Your boyfriend, eh, Reba?
They're awfully cute, Donald and Reba. Sort of like Porgy and Bess.
Hello, Reba.
Donald!
Evening, everybody.
Hi, Donald. How have you been?
I'm pretty good, Mr. Ed. How you been, Miss Sycamore?
Very well, thank you. Donald,
Yes, ma'am?
were you ever in a monastery?
No, I don't go no place much. I'm on relief.
Ah, yes, of course.
Here's the flies, Reba. I caught a big mess of them today.
You sure did.
I see you've been working, Miss Sycamore.
Yes, indeed, Donald.
How's Grandpa?
Just fine. He's over at Columbia this afternoon. The commencement exercises.
My, the years certainly do roll round.
What's he go there for all the time, Penny?
I don't know. Just so handy, just round the corner.
Oh, Donald, Mr. Pin and I are going to take the fireworks up to Mount Vernon next week. Do you think you can give us a hand?
Yes, sir. Only, I can't take no money for it this year, because if the government finds out that I've been working, they'll get sore.
Oh. Ed, I had a wonderful idea in the bathroom just now. I was reading Trotsky. It's yours, isn't it?
Yeah. I left it there.
Who is it?
You know Trotsky, the Russian Revolution?
Oh,
Anyhow, it struck me. It was a great fireworks idea. Remember the last days of Pompeii?
oh yes, Palisades Park. It's where we met.
Well, I'm going to do the revolution. A full-hour display.
Say,
Paul, that's wonderful.
Oh, the red fire's the flag, huh?
Sure, and the Tsar and the Cossacks?
and the freeing of the slaves?
No, Donald. The Russian Revolution. Hello, Grandpa.
Well, sir, you should have been there. That's all I can say. You should have been there.
Was it a nice commencement, Grandpa?
Wonderful. They get better every year. Much funnier speeches this year, too.
You want to hear a good speech? You go up and hear Father Divine.
I'll wait. They'll have him up in Columbia.
Donald,
Yes, ma'am?
will you tell Reba that Grandpa's home? And we won't wait for Miss Alice.
Reba, Grandpa's home. We can have dinner now.
Evening, Grandpa.
Evening, Mr. DePina.
Did we make a new skywork today, Grandpa?
We certainly did.
Wonder why they don't do fireworks at commencements.
Don't make enough noise. You take a good commencement orator, he'll drown out a whole carload of fireworks. Say about as much, too.
Don't the graduates ever say anything?
Oh, not really. They just sit there in their cap and nightgown and wait to get their diplomas. And then about 40 years from now, they're wondering to themselves, where am I?
Hello, Grandpa. Have a nice day.
Oh, hello, have a nice day. Don't I even get kissed?
Excuse me, Grandpa.
I'll take some almonds, too.
Father?
No thanks.
Mother?
No thanks, dear.
Play some.
Good. There was a letter that came for you, Grandpa. Did you get it?
Letter? From me? I don't know anybody.
It was for you, though. It had your name on it.
Really? Where is it?
Oh, I don't know. Mother? Where's the letter that came for Grandpa?
What, dear?
Where's Grandpa's letter?
I don't know. I remember seeing the kitten on it.
Oh, who was it from? Did you notice?
Yes. It was on the outside.
Well, who was it?
United States government.
Really? Wonder what they wanted.
There was one before that, too. There was a couple of them. From the same people.
Well, if any more of them come, I wish that you'd give them to me.
Yes, Grandpa.
I think I'll go up to Westchester tomorrow and do some snake hunting.
God is the state is God.
What's that?
God is the state is God.
Who says that?
Trotsky.
Oh, that's all right. I thought you'd said it.
It's good for printing, you know? It's good and short. G-O-D space I-S space T-H-E space.
And so the beautiful princess came into the palace and kissed her mother, her father, and her grandfather.
Hello, darling.
Hi, Grandpa. And what do you think? They turned into the Sycamore family. Surprised? Oh, Alice! I like it! Do you? It's new, isn't it?
Looks nice and summery.
Where's it from? Oh, I took a walk during lunch hour.
You sure have been taking a lot of walks lately. I'd say that's the second new dress this week.
I just like to brighten up the office once in a while. They call me the Kay Francis of Kirby and Company. Well, what's been going around here in the ways of plays, snakes, ballet, dancing, or fireworks? Dad, I bet you've been in that cellar all day.
Huh?
I'm going back to the war play, Alice.
Really, Mother? Oh, Ed, play Alice that new Beethoven thing you wrote.
Did you know you can mail a letter to Nicolai for just 2 pesetos now?
Really?
Kenneth, this is a priceless thing to me.
Listen, people, listen. I'm not home to dinner. A young gentleman is calling for me. Really? Who is it?
Well, isn't that nice?
I tried my best to keep him from coming here, but he's calling for me.
Why don't you both stay to dinner?
Oh, no. I want him to take you in easy doses. I've tried to prepare him a little, but don't make it harder than you can help. Don't read him any plays, Mother. And don't let a snake bite him, Grandpa, because I like him. And Essie, dear, I wouldn't dance for him because we're going to the Monte Carlo Ballet tonight.
Can't do anything. Who is he? President of the United States?
No, he's the Vice President of Kirby and Company, Mr. Anthony Kirby Jr.
The boss's son?
Well,
The boss's son, just like in the movies.
That explains the new dresses.
And not being home for dinner for 3 weeks.
Why, Sherlock Holmes.
are you going to marry him?
Yes, tonight. Meanwhile, I've got to go off and put my wedding dress on.
Is he good looking?
Yes, in a word. Oh dear, what time is it?
I don't know. Anybody know what time it is?
Oh, it was at 5 o'clock a couple hours ago.
I ought to know better than to ask you people. Well, Mother, will you let me know the minute he comes?
Of course, Alice.
Yes, I know, but I mean the minute.
Why, of course.
Well, be sure.
Well, what do you think of that?
She certainly seems to like him, if you ask me.
I should say so. She's got it bad.
Wouldn't it be wonderful if they got married? We could have the wedding right in this very room.
Now wait a minute, Penny. This is the first time he's ever called for the girl.
Well, you only called on me once.
Young people are different nowadays.
Oh, I don't know. Look at Ed and me. He came for dinner once and just stayed.
Anyhow, I just think it's wonderful. Don't you, Grandpa?
Oh, she certainly seems happy about it.
He must be crazy about her. Maybe he's the one who's been taking her out for dinner every night. This must be him. Now remember what Alice said and be very nice to him. I hope he's good looking.
Well, let's take a look at him.
Come right in. Come right in. Welcome to our little home.
How do you do?
Now, I'm Alice's mother, and that's Alice's grandfather, and her father, Mr. Sycamore, and her sister Essie, and Essie's husband, Ed Carmichael. Oh, and that's Mr. DePina. Now give me your hat and make yourself right at home.
I'm afraid you must be making a mistake.
How's that?
My card.
Wilbur C. Henderson, Internal Revenue Department.
That's right.
How can we help you?
Does Mr. Martin Vanderhoff live here?
Yes, sir. That's me.
Well, Mr. Vanderhoff, the government would like to talk to you about a little matter of income tax.
Income tax?
You mind if I sit down?
Well, go right on ahead.
Thank
Make
you.
yourself at home.
Thank you.
Mother, is that Mr. Kirby?
Oh, no, it isn't, darling. It's, an internal something or other. Pardon me.
Mr. Sycamore, excuse me.
What is it?
These things are not going up. Look.
Not here, Mr. DePina. Grandpa's busy.
All right.
Pardon me.
Well, now, Mr. Vanderhoff, we've written you several letters about this and haven't had any reply.
Oh, that's what those letters were.
I told you they were from the government.
According to our records, Mr. Vanderhoff, you've never paid an income tax.
That's right.
Why not?
I don't believe in it.
You own property, don't you?
I do.
And you receive a yearly income from it.
I do.
Of between $3,000 and $4,000.
About that.
And you've been receiving it for years.
I have. And 1901, if you want the exact date.
The government is only concerned from 1914 on. That's when the income tax started.
Well,
Well, Mr. Vanderhoff, it seems you owe the government 24 years back income tax.
Oh, wait a minute. You can't go back that far. That's outlawed.
And what is your name?
What difference would it make?
Ever file an income tax return?
No, sir.
Okay. And what was your income last year?
$28.50, wasn't it, Essie?
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
If you please. Now, Mr. Vanderhoff, you know there's quite a penalty for not filing an income tax return.
Penalty?
Now, Mr. Henderson, let me ask you something.
Well?
Suppose I do pay this income tax. Mind you, I don't say that I'm going to, but just for the sake of argument, what's the government gonna do with it?
How do you mean?
Well, what are they gonna do with my money? If I go into a Macy's and buy something, there it is. I can see it. What's the government give me?
The government gives you everything. It protects you.
What from?
Invasion? Foreigners who might come over here and take everything you've got.
Oh, I don't think they do that.
If you didn't pay an income tax, they would. How do you think the government keeps up the Army and the Navy? All those battleships.
Battleships? Sir, we haven't used battleships since the Spanish-American War. And what did we get out of that? Cuba. We gave that back. I wouldn't mind paying for something sensible.
Sensible. Well, what about Congress and the Supreme Court and the president? We've got to pay them, don't we?
Not with my money. No, sir.
Now, wait a minute. I am not here to argue with you. All I know is that you haven't paid an income tax, and you've got to pay it.
Well, you've got to show me.
We don't have to show you. I just told you. All those buildings down in Washington, and interstate commerce, and a Constitution, for heaven's sake.
Oh, the Constitution was paid for years ago. And as for the interstate commerce, what is the interstate commerce anyhow?
There are 48 states, see? And if there weren't interstate commerce, nothing would get from one state to the other, see?
Why not? They got fences?
No, they haven't got fences. They've got laws. My goodness, I have never come across something like this before.
I'll tell you what. I'll pay you about $75, but that's all it's worth.
You will pay every cent of it like everybody else.
Listen to this, Essie. Listen to this.
And let me tell you something else. You will go to jail if you don't pay. You hear that? That's the law. And if you think you are bigger than the law, then you've got another thing coming. You're no better than anybody else. And the sooner you get that through your head, the better. You'll hear from the United States government. That is all I can say.
Oh, look out for those snakes.
Ah!
How was that?
Fine, Ed.
How did that sound to you folks?
I liked it.
My goodness, he was mad, wasn't he?
Oh, it's not his fault. It's just the whole thing is so silly.
Oh, he forgot his hat.
Say, what size is that hat?
7 1/8.
Just right for me.
Who is the fellow, anyway?
Oh, this must be him.
Better make sure this time.
Oh, I will.
Good evening.
How do you do? Is this Mr. Anthony Kirby Jr.?
Yes.
Oh, come come right in. We've been expecting you. Now, I'm Mrs. Sycamore, and that's Mr. Sycamore, and Alice's grandfather, and her sister Essie, and Essie's husband. There. Now you've met all of us. Now give me your hat and make yourself right at home.
Thank you.
Mother, is that Mr. Kirby?
Yes.
I'll be
Yes,
right.
it is. And he's lovely.
I'll be right down.
Thank you. I hope I'm not keeping you from dinner.
Oh, not at all. Have an almond?
No, thank you.
Oh, how about some candy?
No thanks.
Oh, I forgot to introduce Mr. DePena. Mr. Kirby, this is Mr. DePena.
Wasn't I was reading about your father in the newsletter the other day? Didn't he got indicted or something?
Hardly that. He just testified before the Securities Commission.
Oh.
Of course, I'm sure there was nothing crooked about it, Mr. DePena. In fact, Alice has often told us what a wonderful man your father is.
Well, I know my father can get along without Alice. She knows more about the business than any of us.
You're awful young, aren't you, Mr. Kirby, to be vice president of such a big place like that?
Well, vice president, you know what that means. All I get is a desk with my name on it.
Is that all? Don't you get any salary?
Well, a little. More than I'm worth, I'm afraid.
Now you're just being modest.
Sounds dull to me. Do you like it?
Wall Street? Well, the hours are short, and I haven't been there very long.
What? Just out of college, huh?
Well, I knocked around for a little while at first, just sort of had fun.
Let me guess. Travel.
For a little. Then I went to Cambridge for a year.
Oh, England.
That's right.
Say, what's an English commencement like? Have you
Oh.
ever been?
Very impressive.
Oh, they are, huh?
Well, anyhow, the fun's over, and I'm facing the world.
Well, you certainly got a good start, vice president, and a rich father.
Well, that's hardly my fault.
So, now I suppose you're all ready to get settled down and get married.
Come now, Penny. I'm sure Mr. Kirby knows his own mind.
I wasn't making up his mind for him, was I, Mr. Kirby?
Of course not, Mrs. Sycamore.
You see?
You mustn't rush him, Mother.
All I was trying to say is that he's bound to get married, and suppose the wrong girl gets him.
Well, here I am, a vision in lavender. I see you've had time to get acquainted.
Oh, yes, indeed. We are just having a delightful talk about love and marriage.
Oh, dear, I came down as quick as I could.
I didn't mind it in the least.
Don knows flies in the kitchen. Oh, Miss Alice, you look beautiful. Where are you going?
I'm going out, Reba.
Step in, huh? That must be Colin Cobb!
Well, Tony, we better get going.
All right.
Creamer with your cornflakes, Grandpa.
Half and half, Donald.
Oh, I forgot.
Ah, my little Rebishka.
Yes, sir, Mr. Colin Cobb.
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening, Golden Cobb.
Evening.
Grandpa, what do you think? I have had a letter from Russia. The second 5-year plan is a failure.
I practiced today, Mr. Colin Cobb.
Ah, my Pablo.
Well, if you'll excuse us, Mr. Kolenkoff.
My little Alice. Never have I seen you look so magnificent.
Thank you, Mr. Kolenkoff. Tony, this is Mr. Kolenkoff, Essie's dancing teacher, Mr. Kirby.
How do you do?
How do you do?
Well, if you'll pardon us, Mr. Kolenkoff, we're going to the Monte Carlo Ballet tonight.
The Monte Carlo Ballet? It stinks!
Well, goodbye, everyone. Goodbye.
I'm so glad to have met you all. Goodbye.
Goodbye.
Bye.
The Monte Carlo Ballet.
Isn't Mr. Kirby lovely? Come on, everybody, dinner's ready.
I thought he was a nice fellow, didn't you?
Oh, yes. And his manners, he had such nice manners. Did you notice his manners, Paul?
I certainly did. You were getting pretty personal with him.
Oh, now, Paul, Anyhow, I think he's a wonderful young man.
And so good looking.
I think if they got married here, we could put the altar right where the snakes are. Would you mind, Grandpa?
Not if the snakes don't.
Oh no, they'll want to get married in the church. His family and everything.
Oh, yes, of course they would.
Okay,
Of course.
Quiet. Settle, everybody. Well, sir, here we are. We just want to let you know that we'd like to keep our health. Of course, we want to go out and be happy in our own sort of way, but as far as anything else is concerned, we'll leave it to you. Thank you.
Of course, his family is going
So
to
the
want to
second
come.
5 years plans of
Imagine
failure, eh,
Alice
Kornikov?
marrying a Kirby.
Catastrophic.
Think of that.
Wait
Isn't it
until they find
exciting?
the third
I'll play the
5-year
wedding
plan.
march on my
I'm still
xylophone.
thinking
What
we're
do
gonna
we
need
got for
5
dinner?
before
I'm
they get
hungry.
it right.
I could see them dance every night of the week. I think they're marvelous.
They are, aren't they? But of course, just walking inside any theater gives me a thrill.
Well, Tony, it's been so lovely. I hate to have it over.
Oh, is it over? Do I have to go right away?
Not if you don't want to.
I don't.
Would you like a cold drink?
Wonderful.
Want? I'll see what's in the icebox. Want to come along?
I'd follow you to the ends of the earth.
Oh, the kitchen is just enough.
Now, Miss Sycamore, if you would please be seated, I would like to offer a toast.
Well, now I am seated.
Miss Sycamore, to you.
Mr. Kirby, to you.
You know something?
What?
I wouldn't trade one night of this evening for all the rice in China.
Really?
Cross my heart.
Is there much rice in China?
Plenty. Didn't you read The Good Earth? Well, I suppose I ought to get going.
Is it very late?
Very. I don't want to go.
I don't want you to.
All right, I won't. When do you take your vacation?
Last 2 weeks of August.
I might take mine then too.
Really?
What are you going to do?
I don't know. I hadn't thought much about it.
Going away, don't you think?
I might not. I like the city in the summertime.
I do too.
But you always go up to Maine, don't you?
Oh, yes, I know, but I would like the city in the summertime if... Oh, you know what I mean, Alice. I'd like it if you were here.
I'd like it if you were here too, Tony.
You know what you're saying, don't you?
What?
That you would rather spend the whole summer with me than anybody else.
Was I?
Well, if it's true about the summer, how would you feel about the winter?
I'd like that too.
And then there's spring and autumn. If you could see your way clear about those, Miss Sycamore?
I might.
Well, that's it then. We haven't forgotten anything, have we?
No.
Well then.
Is that you, Alice? What time is it? Oh, excuse me, Mr. Kirby. I didn't mean to interrupt anything.
It's quite all right, Miss Sycamore.
Well, I just came down for one of my manuscripts, and then you can go right ahead. Ah, here we are. Romance. Takes a holiday. Well, good night, Tony.
Good night, Mrs. Sycamore.
Oh, I think you can call me Penny. At least, I hope so, don't you, Alice?
What's that?
Don't worry, Tony. That's just Father.
Oh, at this time of night?
Any time of the day, any time of the night.
You know, Alice, You're more lovely, more beautiful, more adorable than anyone else in the whole world.
Don't, Tony.
What? Just because you're mother? Why, all mothers are like that. And Penny's a darling. See, I'm even calling her Penny.
I don't mean that. Look, Tony, this is something I should have said a long time ago, but I didn't have the courage. I let myself be swept away because I loved you so.
Darling.
No, Tony, I need to make it clear to you. You're of a different world, a whole different kind of people. I don't mean money or socially, that's too silly, but your family and mine, it just wouldn't work, Tony.
All right, have it your way. She can't dance. That's why I pay her all that money, because she can't dance.
Well, I wouldn't call that dancing what she does. Oh, hello. How was the ballet?
Wonderful.
It was fine, Essie.
Hello there.
Hello.
Look, what do you people think? Ed and I just saw Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers. Do you think she can dance, Mr. Kirby?
Why, yes, I always thought so.
What does she do anyhow? Now look, you be Fred Astaire and I'm Ginger Rogers.
Essie, please.
I just want to use it for a minute. Now look, Mr. Kirby.
Essie, you're just as good as Ginger Rogers, we can all agree.
You see, Ed?
Yeah, well, come on, Essie. We're butting in here.
Oh, they've been together all evening. Good night, Mr. Kirby. Good night, Alice.
Good night, Essie.
Good night, Mrs. Carmichael.
Oh, Essie, you asked Grandpa about us having a baby.
Oh, yes. He said to go right ahead. Whoopee!
You see, Tony, that's what it would be like.
Oh, I didn't mind that. And anyhow, we're not going to live with your family. It's just you and I.
No, it isn't. It's never quite like that. You see, I love them, Tony. I love you too. I know they do rather strange things, but they're gay and they're fun and there's, I don't know, a nobility about them.
Alice, you talk as though only you could understand them. Well, that's just not true. Why, every family's got curious little traits. What of it? Why, my father, he raises orchids at $10,000 a bulb. Is that sensible? And my mother, she believes in spiritualism. Now, that's just as bad as your mother writing plays, isn't it?
Your mother believes in spiritualism because it's fashionable, and your father raises orchids because he can afford to. My mother writes plays because 8 years ago, a typewriter was delivered at our doorstep by mistake.
But, darling, what of it?
And look at Grandpa. 35 years ago, he just quit business one day. He started up the elevator and came right back down again. He just stopped. He could have been a rich man, but he said it took too much time. So for 35 years, he's collected snakes and gone to circuses and commencements, and it never occurs to any of them.
Hello there, children.
Good evening, Mr. Vanderhoff.
Hi, Grandpa.
How's the weather outside? Looks like a nice night.
Yes, it's lovely, Grandpa.
Well, I should be going. Have a date with a policeman around the corner.
Policeman?
Oh, yes. Him and I have a standing date. 12:30 every night. I've known him since he was a boy. He's really a doctor. But when he graduated, he came up to me and said he didn't want to be a doctor. He had always wanted to be a policeman. So I said to him, go ahead and be a policeman, if that's what you want. Say, how do you like my hat?
It's very nice, Mr. Vanderhoff.
I like it. Government gave it to me.
Oh, excuse me. I didn't know y'all folks was in here.
It's all right, Donald.
Reba kinda fancied some candy and oh, there it is. Y'all don't want it, do you?
No, Donald.
Did y'all have a nice evening?
Yes, Donald.
Nice dinner?
Yes, Donald.
Was the ballet nice?
Yes, Donald.
That's nice.
You see, Tony, could you explain Grandpa to your father? Could you explain Donald? No, you couldn't. I love them, Tony. I love them deeply. Some people could break away, but I couldn't.
Alice, there's only one thing you've said this whole conversation that makes any sense at all and that matters. It's that you love me.
But Tony, I know so
But
well.
darling, don't you think everybody's got the same problems? Why, everybody's got a family.
But not like mine.
Alice, that doesn't stop people who love each other. Darling, darling, won't you go on loving me? Forget everything else.
But how can I?
'Cause nothing can keep us apart. You know that. You must know that. Your family, they want you to be happy. They must.
Well, of course they do, but they couldn't change, Tony. I wouldn't want them to change.
They won't have to change. They're charming, lovable people just as they are. Everything will be fine. You're worrying about something that may never come up.
Oh, Tony, am I?
All that matters right now is that we love each other. That's so, isn't it?
Yes.
Well then.
Oh, Tony.
Now, I'd like to see a little gaiety around here. Young gentlemen calling and getting engaged and everything.
What should I say?
Well, first, you thank the young gentleman for getting engaged to you.
Thank you, Mr. Kirby, for getting engaged to me.
And then, you tell him what it was about him that first stole your girlish heart.
The back of your head.
Huh?
Uh-huh. It wasn't your money or your charm. It was the back of your head. I just kind of liked it.
What happened when I turned around?
Oh, I got used to it after a while.
Oh, Alice. Think of it. We're pretty lucky, aren't we?
I know I am. I'm the luckiest girl in the world.
I'm not exactly unlucky myself. Oh dear, I guess I ought to, well... Good night, Alice.
Good night, Mr. Kirby.
Isn't it wonderful that we work in the same office? Otherwise, I'd be hanging around here all day.
Won't it be strange in the office tomorrow, going on as though nothing had ever happened?
I can dictate to you all day. Dear Mrs. Sycamore, I love you, I love you, I love you!
Oh, Tony, you're such a fool.
What do you say you meet me in the drugstore in the morning before we go up to the office? I'll have millions of things to say to you.
All right.
And then lunch, and then dinner tomorrow night.
Oh, Tony, what will people say?
Well, it's gotta come out at some point. In fact, if you know a good housetop, I'd like to do a little shouting.
Yes, sir, Mr. Puna. We did a good night's work.
That's what? 500 Black Panthers, 300 willow trees, 8 dozen of junior keto bombers.
Yes, sir. Pretty good. Why, hello, Alice. You just come in?
No, Father, I've been home for quite some time.
Have a nice evening.
Yes, I had a beautiful evening, Father.
Say, I'd like you to take a look at this new red fire. Will you turn up the lights, Mr. DePina? I want Alice to get the full effect.
What, Father?
Take a look at this new red fire. It's beautiful. There. What do you think of it? Isn't it beautiful?
Oh, Father, everything is beautiful. It's the most beautiful red fire in the world.
All right, I said to him, you can take your old job.
I'm ready to read you the new play, Miss Wellington, anytime you are.
Just a minute, dearie, just a minute.
I hope you won't mind my mentioning this, but you don't drink when you're acting, do you, Miss Wellington? I'm just asking, of course.
I'm glad you brought it up. Once the play opens, I never touch a drop. Minute I enter a stage door, the bottle gets put away until intermission.
You've been on stage a long time, Miss Wellington?
All my life, I've played everything ever Peggle My Heart?
Yes.
I saw it too. Good show. My hot night, ain't it?
You want me to open a window, Miss Wellington?
No, forget the weather. Say, he's cute.
Reba, she's just acting. She don't mean nothing.
Well, anytime you're ready, we'll go up to my room and start. I thought we'd read the play up in my room.
All right, dearie, I'm ready. When I see snakes, it's time to lie down.
Oh, dear, oh, Miss Wellington, those are real. Those are Grandpa's Miss Wellington.
Oh, well, she's out like a light.
Better let her sleep it off.
Reba, Miss Wellington's just passed out.
Do you think she'll be?
Good. I'm glad.
Do you think she'll be all right?
Oh, yes. I wouldn't go casting her in any religious play, though.
Well, I suppose I'll just have to wait.
You know, Penny, next time you meet an actress on top of a bus, perhaps you should send her your play instead of bringing her home to read it.
Ed, I wish you'd stop printing and take around those love dreams. You need to be back in time to play for me when Colin Cobb comes.
Oh, Colin Cobb's coming tonight?
Yes, tomorrow night's his night, but I had to change it on account of Alice.
Big doings going on tomorrow. Yeah?
Isn't it exciting? You know, I'm so nervous. You'd think it was me he was engaged to, not Alice.
I wonder what they'll be like, his mother and father. Ed, what are you doing now?
Look, Penny, see the new mask I made last night? Guess who it is?
Don't tell me now, Ed. Let me see. Helen of Troy.
No, it's Miss Roosevelt.
You know, the nice thing about these Masano sets is that you can make so many different things with them. Last week, it was the Empire State Building.
What is it this week?
The Mayflower.
Oh, look, Mr. DePinna. Would you go outside and see if there's a man standing in front of the house?
Why? What for?
Well, the last 2 days I've gone out to deliver candy. I think a man's been following me.
Ed, you're crazy.
No, I'm not. He follows me and then he stands and watches the house.
Really? I will take a look and see.
Yeah.
I don't know what anybody would follow you for, Ed.
Well, there's been a lot of kidnapping going on, Grandpa.
Yeah, but not of Ed.
There's nobody out there at all.
You're sure?
Positive. I just saw him walking away.
You see?
Oh, it might have been anybody walking along the street. Will you hurry up and get back now?
Oh, all right.
Want to go down now, Mr. Sycamore, and finish packing up the fireworks?
Yeah, we've got to take the sub up to Mount Vernon in the morning.
Mother, I'm making a list for Reba tomorrow night. May I borrow some paper?
Of course. Here's some.
Thanks, dear. My, what happened to your actress friend? Is she giving a performance?
Oh, she's not acting, Alice. She's really drunk.
Essie, dear, you're going to give Reba the kitchen all day tomorrow, aren't you? Because she'll need it.
Of course, Alice. I'm going to start some love dreams now, so I'll be way ahead.
Thank you, darling. And I think I'll be ready at around 3 o'clock back home. So you'll have everything down to the cellar by then, won't you? The typewriter, the snakes, the xylophone, the printing press.
And Miss Wellington.
And Miss Wellington.
Of course.
That'll give me time to arrange the table and fix the flowers.
You know, the Currys sure are going to get the wrong impression of this house.
You'll do all that, won't you, Mother?
Of course, dear.
And I think we better have cocktails ready by 7:15, in case they happen to come a little bit early. I wonder if I ought to let let Reba do the cooking. Grandpa, what do you think?
Now, Alice, what I've seen of the boy, I'm sure the Kirbys are very nice people. And if everything isn't so elaborate tomorrow, that'll be all right too.
Grandpa, I'm not trying to impress them or pretend we're something we're not. I just want everything to go off well.
No reason why it shouldn't, Alice.
We'll do everything we can to make it a very nice party.
Oh, my darlings, I love you. You're the most wonderful family in the world, and I'm the happiest girl in the world. Why, I didn't know anybody could be so happy. This past week has felt like I'm floating. Grandpa, you don't know what it does to me. Why, just seeing him.
Oh, sure. Just seeing him. Just seeing him for lunch and for dinner. And then 4 a.m. in the morning. And then at 9 a.m. the next morning, you go down to the office and there he is. But just seeing him, huh?
I don't care. I'm in love. Reba, Reba!
Nice, isn't it? Nice to see her so happy.
Yes, I remember when I was engaged to Paul, how happy I was. And you know I still feel that way.
Oh, yes. Nice the way Ed and Nessie get along, too.
Oh, and Donald and Reba, even though they're not married. Oh, do you think Mr. DePina will ever get married?
Well, there's always Miss Wellington.
Oh, dear, I do wish he would wake up.
Miss Sycamore, look! Look what I found. Remember,
Yes, it's my painting of you as the Roman discus thrower. Look, Grandpa!
Oh. Oh, yes. I remember. Say, you've changed a bit since then, haven't you, Mr. DePina?
isn't it very noticeable?
Yeah.
Well, it was a long time ago. Let's see. Just before I stopped painting, 8 years ago.
Too bad, Mr. Sycamore, you never finished the painting.
I did always mean to finish it, but I started writing a play one day. That was that. I never painted again.
Just as well, too. You're gonna have me stripped down next.
My goodness, who would have thought that one day I will be delivering the ice and stay here for 8 years?
You know, Milkman was here for 5, just before you.
Really? Where did he live anyhow?
Oh, he didn't leave.
Oh.
He died.
Oh.
He was a very nice man. Remember the funeral, Grandpa? We didn't know his name, so it was kind of hard to get a certificate.
What did we end up calling him anyhow?
Martin Vanderhoff. We gave him your name.
That's right. I remember.
It was a lovely thought, too. Otherwise, he wouldn't have gotten all those flowers.
Certainly didn't hurt me any. Haven't received any mail since, and why, I haven't gotten a single telephone call from that day to this.
Yes, it really was a lovely thought.
I wish you could finish this painting, Mr. Sycamore. I'd kind of like to have it.
Do you know, Mr. DePina? I think I'll do some work on it right tonight.
Will you?
I don't think she's gonna wake up anyhow. Here, how about you go down to the cellar and put on your costume and bring up the easel? Is it still down there?
I think so.
Now, where did I put my palette and brushes?
Ah, my little Rabishka.
Mr. Kolkoff.
Hello, Mr. Kullenkoff. Essie's in the kitchen.
Madame Sycamore, I greet you. Tell me, Grandpa, what should I do about Rabishka? I keep telling her she could be a great toe dancer, but she laughs only.
No, sir, Mr. Kollenkoff. I can't get over my toes. I have corns.
Rabishka, you could wear diamonds. A great girl, Grandpa. What is that?
Oh, that? That's a painting of Mr. DePina. Penny painted it.
Ah, well, it stinks.
I know. What do you think of that?
What is that?
She's an actress friend of Penny's.
She is Drunk, no?
She was drunk. Yes. How are you, Kolonkov?
Oh, I am magnificent. Life is chasing around inside of me like a squirrel.
It is, huh? Say, how are things down in Russia? You hear from your friend in Moscow?
Yes, I have just heard from him. And I saved for you the stamp.
Oh, thank you, Kolonkov.
They have sent him to Siberia.
They have, huh? How's he like it?
Oh, he has escaped. He has escaped, and he's gone back to Moscow. He will get them yet if they do not get him, the Soviet government. The Soviet government. I could take the whole Soviet government and
I'm sorry I'm late, Mr. Kolonkov. I'll get into my dancing clothes right away.
Tonight, my Pavlova, you are going to work. Tonight, we will try something new.
Kolonkov, how's Essie doing in her dancing?
Confidentially, she stinks!
Well, as long as she's having fun.
You sure do tickle Reba, Mr. Kolonkov. She's knocking her head off out there.
Oh, she is a great woman. Tell me, Donald, what do you think of this Soviet government?
The what, Mr. Kolonkov?
Oh, never mind. I withdraw the question. What do you think of this government?
I like it.
Oh, that's what they want.
You mean I could get it right here instead of going to that place every week?
No, Donald. I'm afraid you're going to have to continue to waste a full 30 minutes of your time every week.
Well, I don't like it. It breaks up my week.
He should have been in Russia when the revolution came. Then he would have stood in line, a bread line. Ah, Grandpa, what they have done to Russia. Think of it. The Grand Duchess Olga Katrina, her cousin was the Tsar of Russia, and today she is a waitress in a child's restaurant. Only yesterday I ordered from her baked beans. It broke my heart. This is a crazy world, Grandpa.
Oh, well, it's not so crazy, Kolonkov. It's the people in it that make it so. Life's kind of simple if you learn to relax a little bit.
Relax? But how can you relax in times like this?
Well, if you'd relax, it wouldn't be times like these. That's just my point. Life's kind of beautiful if you learn to slow down a little bit. The only problem is, we forget that. I know I did. I was right in the thick of it. Fighting, scratching, clawing, a regular jungle. And then one day it occurred to me. I wasn't having any fun.
So, you did what?
Relaxed. 35 years ago that was, and I have been a happy man ever since.
Good evening, Mr. Kolonkov.
Ah, Miss Alice, I have not seen you to present my congratulations.
Thank you.
May you be very happy and have many children. That is my prayer for you.
That's quite a thought.
Ah, love. Love is all that is left in the world, Grandpa.
Yes, and there's plenty of that.
And soon Stalin will take that away too, I tell you.
Seems so nice to get into my art things again. Do they still look all right, Grandpa?
They do indeed.
Madame Sycamore, you are a breath of Paris.
Why, thank you, Mr. Kolonkov.
I didn't know he was working for the WPA.
Oh, no, Donald. I used to paint all the time, you see.
It happened again. That fellow was following me every place I went.
Nonsense, Ed. It's your
No,
imagination.
it's not. It happens every time I go out to deliver candy.
Oh, I know. Maybe he wants a piece of candy.
Oh, it's all right for you to laugh, Grandpa, but he keeps following me.
You do not know what following is. In Russia, everyone is followed. In fact, I was followed right out of Russia.
You see, Ed? It's just imagination.
over there.
Right here.
Ed, for tonight's lesson, we will use the first movement of Scheherazade.
Okay.
Has something happened to your figure in these 8 years, Mr. DePena?
No, isn't it different?
Yes, Miss Wellington? Yes? Oh, dear.
I'm sorry I'm late, Mr. Kolenkoff. I couldn't find my slippers.
Ah, my Pavlova. Tonight. Tonight is a hot night. And tonight, arts shall be achieved through perspiration.
Why, that's wonderful, Mr. Kolenkoff. Did you hear that, Grandpa? Art is only achieved through perspiration.
Oh, sure. But it helps if you have a little talent to go with it. Only made 2 bullseyes yesterday. Gonna have to do better than that.
You all ready? Then we begin. Now, pirouette. Pirouette. Come on, come on. It has been 8 years. You can do it. Oh, alas. Yes, yes. Yes. Now, Ed, help us. But, Grandpa, no, you cannot relax. Not with Stalin in Russia. The Tsar relaxed, and what happened to him?
It was too late.
Mr. Kolenkoff! Mr. Kolenkoff!
No, if the Tsar had not relaxed, then the Grand Duchess would not be serving baked beans today.
Mr.
Ah.
Kolenkoff!
All right, we return to the pirouettes.
Could you suck in your stomach a little bit, Mr. DePena? Yes, that's right.
A little freer with the hands. The old body must work. Ed, now you can help us with the music. Yes.
How do you do? Not at all. How do you do?
Well, are we too early?
No, not at all. Why, we're glad to see you. Come right in.
Yes, only we thought it was to be tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night?
What?
Now, it's perfectly all right. Make yourselves at home.
Tony, how could you
I don't know. I thought it was tonight.
Really, Tony, this is most embarrassing.
Oh, not at all. Why, we weren't doing a thing.
Of course not. Just a quiet little evening at home.
That's all. No worries. Now, this is Alice's mother, Mrs. Sycamore.
How do you do?
And Alice's sister, Mrs. Carmichael. Her husband, Ed Carmichael.
Hi.
Mr. Kolenkov, as his dancing instructor. And Mr. DePena.
How do you do?
Don't mind my costume. I take it right off.
Oh, Mr. DePinna, could you go downstairs and tell Mr. Sycamore to come right up? The
All-
Kirbys are here.
All right.
And be sure to put his pants on. I'll tell Alice that you're, Alice? Alice, dear?
What is it?
Alice, could you come down here? We've got a little surprise for you. Well,
Mrs. Kirby, may I take her wrap?
Well, thank you. You're perfectly sure we're not.
Oh, now, Mrs. Kirby, don't mind them. They're perfectly harmless. Ed, take them into the kitchen.
we're just so used to having them around the house.
I'm sorry to bother you, but snakes happen to be.
I feel very uncomfortable about this. Tony, how could you have done such a thing?
I'm sorry, Dad. I thought it was tonight.
It was very careless of you. Very.
Oh, now anyone can make a mistake.
Yes. Would you like a chair, Mrs. Kirby? Ed, chair. Now, Penny, how about some dinner for these folks? They've come for dinner, you know.
Oh, please don't bother. Really not hungry at all.
Oh, but it's not a bit of a bother. Ed! Tell Donald to run down to the A&P and get half a dozen bottles of root beer and, let's see, some canned salmon. Do you like canned salmon, Mr. Kirby?
Please don't trouble Mrs. Sycamore. I have a little indigestion anyway.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mrs. Kirby, do you like canned salmon?
Oh, I'm very fond of it.
We could have frankfurters if you'd rather.
Either one will do.
Well, make it frankfurters and some canned corn and Campbell's soup. Got that?
Okay.
And tell them to hurry. The A&P is just at the corner, and frankfurters don't take any time to boil.
Oh, and this is Alice's father, Mr. Sycamore. Mr. Sycamore, Mr. and Mrs. Kirby.
How do you do?
I hope you forgive my appearance.
Yes, this is Mr. Sycamore's busiest time of the year. Right around 4th of July, he always...
Oh!
Darling, I'm the most dull-witted person in the world. I thought it was tonight.
Why, Tony, I thought you. Oh, dear, I'm so sorry. I can't imagine why. I wasn't. Well, have you all met each other?
Yes, indeed.
How do you do, Alice?
How do you do, Mrs. Kirby? I'm afraid I'm not very presentable.
Oh, darling, you look lovely.
Of course he does. Don't let this upset you, my dear. We've all just met each other a night sooner. That's all.
Planning such a nice party tomorrow night.
Well, we'll come again tomorrow night.
There you are, Alice. Am I forgiven?
Well, I guess so. It's just that well, we better see about getting you some dinner.
Oh, that's all taken care of, Alice!
But
That's all been attended to.
But Mother, what did you send out for? Because Mr. Kirby, he suffers from indigestion. He can only eat certain things.
Oh, it's all right. It's all right.
It's quite all right, Alice.
I asked him what he wanted, Alice.
Well,
No, it's not as serious as all that. Just because I have a little indigestion.
Ah, but Mr. Kirby, perhaps it is not indigestion. Perhaps it is stomach ulcers.
please, Mr. Kolenkoff.
You'll have to forgive Mr. Kolenkov. He's not quite accountable for his actions. He's a Russian. Russians tend to look on the dark side of things.
All right, I am a Russian, but a friend of mine, a Russian, died from stomach ulcers.
Really,
Please, Mr. Kolenkoff. Mr. Kirby suffers from indigestion, and that's all.
All right, let him wait.
Oh, would you please sit down, Mr. Kirby? Paul, the chair.
Thank you.
Now, Mr. Kirby, how's business conditions? Would you say we're well out of the depression?
What? Yes, I think so. Of course, it all depends.
Well, certainly you'd project that things are going to keep improving.
Broadly speaking, yes. As a matter of fact, industry is now operating at 64% of full capacity, as against 82% in 1925. Of course, in 1929,
Was a young lady from Wheeling. She had a remarkable feeling. She fell down the stairs, but hey there, cutie.
You have to mind her. She's not quite accountable for her actions. An actor friend of Penny's. She came over for dinner and was overcome by the heat.
Yes. You see, some people feel it more than others. Perhaps I better go check on her. Excuse me.
Well, it is rather hot. You usually escape all the heat, don't you? Up in Maine?
As a rule, I had to come down this week, however, for the flower show.
Mother wouldn't miss it for the world. That blue ribbon is the high spot of her year.
I won a ribbon at a flower show once for raising onions. Remember, Alice?
That was an onion show, Essie.
Oh, yes.
I think she'll be all right now. Has Donald come back yet?
No, he hasn't.
Well, he'll be right back, and it won't take any time at all. I'm afraid you must be starved.
oh no, quite all right. Hello, what's this? I didn't know there were little children in the house.
Oh no, that's mine.
Really? Well, I suppose every man has his hobby. Or do you use this as a model of some kind?
No, I just play with it.
I see.
Perhaps you'd be better off if you had a hobby like that, Dad, instead of raising orchids.
Yes, I wouldn't be surprised.
Oh, do tell us about your orchids, Mr. Kirby. You know, they take 6 years, don't they?
Oh, some of them take longer than that. I've got one coming along now that I've been waiting 10 years for.
Believe it or not, I was waiting for an orchid.
Ah, yes. Of course, during that time, they required the most scrupulous care. I remember a bulb that I was very fond of.
Donald!
Oh, here we are. Did you get everything, Donald?
Yes, ma'am. Only they didn't have frankfurters, so I got pickled pigs.
Oh, never mind. Just take everything into the kitchen. If you'll excuse me, please do continue to tell them all about your orchids. I know they'd love to hear it. Pardon me.
Kind of an expensive hobby, isn't it, Mr. Kirby? Raising orchids?
Yes, it is. But I feel that if a hobby gives one sufficient pleasure, then it's never expensive.
I couldn't agree more.
You see, I need something to relieve the daily nerve strain. After a week in Wall Street, I'd go crazy if I didn't have something like that.
Well, why don't they give up Wall Street?
How's that?
I was just kidding.
I think it's necessary for everyone to have a hobby. Of course, it's more to me than just a hobby, but my great solace is spiritualism.
Spiritualism, Mrs. Kirby? Oh, now everyone knows that's a thing.
To me, Mrs. Sycamore, spiritualism is, well, I would rather not discuss it, Mrs. Sycamore.
Now wait a minute, Penny. You've got 1 or 2 hobbies of your own.
Yes, but not silly ones.
No, I don't think it matters what the hobby is. It's having one that's important.
Ah, but to be ideal, a hobby must improve the body as well as the mind. The Romans were a great people. Why? What was their hobby? Wrestling. In wrestling, you must think quick with the mind and act quick with the body.
I'm afraid that wrestling isn't very practical for the most of us. I wouldn't make a great showing as a wrestler.
Ah, but Mr. Kirby, you could be a great wrestler. You are built for it. Look!
Come on.
Oh, Mr. Kirby, are you hurt?
Are you all right, Father?
Where are my glasses?
Oh, here they are, Mr. Kirby. They're broken.
Oh, well, I am sorry. But when you wrestle again, Mr. Kirby, you will, of course, not wear glasses.
I do not intend to wrestle again,
Whoa,
Mr. Kollenkoff.
whoa. Better sit down, Father.
Mr. Kollenkoff, how could you do such a thing? Why didn't anybody stop him?
I think if you don't mind, perhaps we had better be going.
please, Mrs. Kirby, please don't go. Oh, please, Mr. Kirby, I've ordered a plain salad and some eggs. Oh, please don't go.
That's quite all right.
It's all right, Alice. We're not leaving.
Oh, well, I am sorry. And I apologize.
I
Oh.
can't tell you how sorry I am, Mr. Kirby.
It's fine. It's quite all right.
If I had been here,
Alice, of course it is. It's all right, Alice. We're not going.
Well, that was exciting for a moment, wasn't it?
You were talking about raising orchids, weren't you, Mr. Kirby? Do you raise many variety?
I'm afraid I quite forgotten about my orchids.
I'm so awfully sorry, Mr. Kirby.
What did I do that was so terrible, though? I threw him on the floor. Did it kill him?
Please, Mr. Kolenkoff.
I'm sure dinner won't be any time at all now.
Would you like some candy while you're waiting, Mr. Kirby? I've got some freshly made.
My doctor does not permit me to eat candy. Thank you.
Oh, but these are nothing, Mr. Kirby. Just coconut and marshmallow and fudge.
Don't, Essie.
Well, Miss Alice.
What is it, Reba?
The eggs don't fall down the sink.
Make some more quick.
I ain't got any.
Send Donald out for some.
All right.
Clumsy girl.
Tell him to hurry.
Of course.
I'm so sorry, Mr. Kirby. That will just be a moment. Everything will be all right.
I'm sorry for all the trouble I've caused with my stupidity.
Oh, not at all, Tony.
Look, why don't we all play a game of some sort while we're waiting?
Mother, I don't think Mr. and Mrs. Kirby want to play a game.
Ha! Oh, but I have a wonderful idea. I know an excellent trick with a full glass of water.
No, Mr.
Calling Cobb.
All right.
But I'm sure Mr. and Mrs. Kirby would love this game. It's perfectly harmless.
I'm not so sure.
I'm not very good at games, Mrs. Sycamore.
Oh, but any fool could play it, Mr. Kirby. All you do is write your name on a piece of paper.
Mother, what is this game?
It's a game I used to play in grade school.
What's it called?
It's called Forget-Me-Not. Here you are, Mr. Kirby. Write your name on that piece of paper. You do the same on this one, Mrs. Kirby. Now, I'm going to call out 5 words, just anything at all, see? And as I say each word, you're to put down the first thing that comes into your mind. For instance, if I say grass, you might put down green. Just as simple as that, see? Or if I say chair, you might put down table. Just anything you think of. It shows the reactions people have to different things. You see how simple it is, Mr. Kirby?
Come on, Father, be a sport.
Very well. I shall be happy to play it.
You see, Alice? He does want to play.
Well,
Now then, are we ready?
Ready?
Now remember, you must play fair. Put down the first thing that comes to mind.
I understand.
Ready for the first word? The first word is potatoes. Potatoes. Ready for the next one?
Go ahead.
Bathroom.
Mother, Mother.
Nonsense, Alice. This word's all right.
No, Mother, that is quite not all right.
Oh, I don't know. It seems to me it's a perfectly fair word.
You see, Alice? Now you mustn't interrupt.
May I have that last word again, please?
Passion, Mr. Kirby.
I've got it.
Oh boy, this is a fun game, isn't it?
Shh, Grandpa. The next word is honeymoon. Now, Essie. And the last word is love.
Mother!
Everybody got love? Now, I'm going to take your papers. Thank you, Mrs. Kirby. Uh-huh.
Oh, what's next, Alice?
Now I read your reactions.
I see. It's really quite an interesting game.
I knew you'd like it, Mr. Kirby. I'll read your paper first. All right, everybody, this is Mr. Kirby. Here we go. Here we go. This is Mr. Kirby, everybody. Potatoes, steak. That's very good, Mr. Kirby. See how they go together? Steak and potatoes.
Thank you. I just happened to think of it.
Well, it's very good. Bathroom, toothpaste. Well, passion, unnecessary. Is it that nice? Honeymoon, trip, yes. And love, married. Oh, yes, you are. That really was a wonderful paper, Mr. Kirby.
Thank you. It's more than just a game, you know. It's sort of an experiment in psychology, isn't it?
Oh, yes, it shows just how people's minds work. Let's see how Mrs. Kirby's mind works. All right, everybody, this is Mrs. Kirby. Potatoes, starch. I know just what you mean, Mrs. Kirby. Oh, dear. Bathroom, Mr. Kirby.
What's that?
Bathroom, Mr. Kirby.
I don't really quite follow that, my dear.
I don't know. I just thought of you in connection with it. After all, you are in there a good deal, Anthony. Bathing and shaving and, well, you do take a long time.
Indeed, I hadn't realized I was being selfish in the matter. Go on, Mrs. Sycamore.
I think this is a very silly game, and we ought to stop it.
Yes.
No. Go on, Mrs. Sycamore.
Where was I? Oh, yes, passion, human.
Human? Really? Miriam!
I just meant, Anthony, that passion is, after all, a human emotion.
I don't agree with you, Miriam. Passion is not a human emotion. It's ridiculous.
Very well, Anthony. I'm wrong.
Really, this is a most pointless game. Suppose we play 20 questions?
Yes.
No, I find this game rather interesting. Will you go on, Mrs. Sycamore? What's the next word?
Honeymoon.
Ah, and what was Mrs. Kirby's answer?
Honeymoon. Dull.
Did you say dull?
I don't know. It just, the Hot Springs was not very gay that season, and all those old people sitting on the porch all afternoon and nothing to do at night.
That was not your reaction at the time, as I recall it.
Father, this is only a game.
A very illuminating game. Go on, Mrs. Sycamore.
Oh, one's all right. Love, Wall Street.
Wall Street? What do you mean, Miriam?
I don't know what I meant, Anthony. Nothing.
But you must have meant something, or you wouldn't have put it down.
It was just the first thing that came into my head, that's all.
But what does it mean? Passion? Wall Street?
I don't know what I meant. It's just that you're always talking about Wall Street, even when... I don't know what it means. Alice, would you mind terribly if we didn't stay for dinner? I'm afraid this game has given me a headache.
I understand, Mrs. Kirby.
Mother!
Yes, possibly we better postpone the dinner if you don't mind.
Oh, but you're coming again tomorrow night, aren't you?
I'm afraid we have an engagement tomorrow night.
Perhaps we better postpone the whole dinner a little while. The hot weather and,
I think we're being very ungracious, Father. Of course we'll stay for dinner. Tonight.
I have a very bad headache, Tony.
Come, Tony. I'm sure everyone understands.
Well, I don't. I think we ought to stay.
Don't, Tony.
What?
We were fools, Tony, to ever think it would work. I know what your father means, and he's right.
No, he's not.
I'm sorry, my dear. Very sorry. Are you ready, Miriam?
Yes.
Darling, you mustn't mind this.
Oh, it's been very nice to have met you all.
Yes, lovely.
Are you coming, Tony?
No, Father, I'm not. I want to stay.
I see. Your mother and I will be waiting for you at home. Good night.
Good night.
Stay right where you are, everybody. Don't move.
Oh, good heavens!
How dare you? Why? What does this mean?
Keep your mouth shut, you.
What is
Which
this?
one is it?
This is him. What are you doing? Ed! Why? What do you mean?
What's your name?
Edward Carmichael. I haven't done anything.
Oh, this seems rather high-handed to me. What's it all about?
Department of Justice.
Oh my goodness! Damon! Ed, what have you done?
I haven't done anything.
Come here, you.
Oh, what's he done?
You ever seen these before?
What, are you just ignoring me now?
Yes, sir. Those are my circulars.
You print this stuff, huh?
Yes, sir.
And you put them in a box of candy to get them into people's houses.
The love dreams!
Oh, no, I didn't mean anything by it.
You didn't, huh? Dynamite the Capitol. Dynamite the White House. Dynamite the Supreme Court. God is the state. The state is God.
I didn't mean anything by that. I just like to print. Don't I, Grandpa?
Now, officer, the government's in no danger of Ed. He prints us all. It's his hobby. All he does is print.
He does, eh?
I never heard such nonsense.
I refuse to stay here, and
Hey, let me get my pipe, will you? Let me get my pipe.
Shut up, you. You were right, Chief. They got enough gunpowder down there to blow up the whole city.
Keep still. Everyone in this house is under arrest.
what's that?
Why? I haven't done anything. I refuse to.
Your pipe.
I believe that's your pipe. You might want to go get it.
officer. Shut up!
Keep still, you. Stop that. Stop it.
Who is that?
My mother!
The fireworks! It's the fireworks!
Miriam, all right, there's no danger.
Light up, people! Light up, all of you!
Four appearance in the West Side Court this morning. After spending the night in jail, the defendants, 13 in all, were brought before Judge Callahan and given suspended sentences for manufacturing fireworks without a permit.
Yeah, they kept me in the same cell with, well, let's just say she wasn't much of a lady. She was a burlesque show dancer.
I was in the cell with Mr. Kirby. My, he was mad.
Yeah, Mrs. Kirby, that lady, can't find it all night.
Well, all about Mr. Kirby here. apprehended, declared he was in no way interested in the manufacture of fireworks, but refused to state why he was on the premises at the time of the raid. Mr. Kirby is a member of the Union Club, the Racquet Club, the Harvard Club, and the National Geographic Society. My, he certainly is a joiner.
All the good folks are out or something.
I suppose after all this, Mr. Tony ain't ever gonna marry Miss Alice, huh?
No, what a shame, since Alice sure does love that boy.
Ever notice how rich folks always leave themselves in trouble?
Yeah, I'm glad I broke.
Me too.
I don't know what I was gonna do about all that food out in the kitchen. There ain't gonna be no party tonight, that's for sure.
Ain't we gonna eat it anyhow?
Well, I'm cooking it, but I don't think anybody's gonna have much of an appetite.
Well, I'm hungry.
They ain't. They're also broke up about Miss Alice.
What's Miss Alice going away for? Where's she going?
I don't know, mountain someplace. She's going all right, no matter what they say. I know Miss Alice. She gets that look in her eye.
Too bad, ain't it?
Sure is.
Even a balloon.
How's your hand, Mr.
Yes, better. Where's the oil?
It's in the salad bowl.
Oh, thank you.
She's going. Nothing anybody would say would change her.
She isn't gonna be away long, is she, Miss Sycamore?
I don't know, Reba. She won't say.
It's gonna be awful lonesome around here without her.
How you feeling, Miss Sycamore?
Oh, I'm all right, Donald. Just sort of upset. Perhaps if I do some work, I'll feel better.
Well, I'll leave you to it then, Miss Sycamore.
Yes.
Now, Penny.
But I can't help it, Paul. Somehow I feel it's our fault.
It's mine, more than yours, Penny. All these years I've been going along, enjoying myself, when maybe I should have been thinking more about Alice.
Don't say that, Paul. You've been a wonderful father and husband, too.
No, I haven't. Maybe if I'd gone and been an architect, I don't know. Something Alice could have been proud of. I felt that all last night looking at Mr. Kirby.
But we've been so happy.
I know. Maybe that's not enough. I used to think it was, but I'm kind of all mixed up now.
What time is she going?
Pretty soon. Train leaves at 7:30.
Oh, if only she'd see Tony. I'm sure he could convince her.
But she won't. He's been trying all day.
Where is he now?
I don't know. I suppose walking around the block again. Anyhow, she won't talk to him.
Maybe he can catch her on her way out.
It won't help. Penny,
No, I suppose not. I feel so sorry for Tony, too. Oh, well, Grandpa?
Alone.
But, Grandpa!
Suppose she does go to the Adirondacks. So what? You can only take so much Adirondacks before you go back home.
Oh, but it's all so terrible, Grandpa.
Oh, it's not all that bad. You have to look on the bright side of things.
how do you mean?
Well, Mr. Kirby getting in the patrol car for one thing. And then the look on his face when him and Donald had to share a bath together. Now that's something I won't forget if I live to be 100. And I'm warning you people, I plan on it.
But it was even worse for Mrs. Kirby. When the matron took her clothes, especially her fur.
Oh yes, I'm sure that Bar Harbor's gonna seem pretty dull to them this summer. Need any help, Alice?
No thanks, Grandpa. I'm just going to press these.
Alice, dear.
Alice, I'll bring the big bag down as soon as you're ready.
Thank you.
Would you like to take some candy along for the train, Alice?
No, thank you, Essie.
Really, Alice? You could be just as alone here as in the mountains. You could shut yourself up in your room and never talk to any of us.
No, Mother. I just have to go away for a while. I love you all, and you know that. just have to go away. I'll be all right. Father, did you phone for a cab?
No, I didn't know you wanted one.
Oh, I told Mr. DePinna to tell you, Paul. Didn't he tell you?
Oh, he told me. But I forgot.
Oh, I wish I lived in a family that didn't always forget everything. That behaved the way other people's families do. I'm sick of Donald and cornflakes and everything. Why can't you behave like other people with roast beef and 2 green vegetables and doilies on the table in a place you could bring your friends to without...
Oh, I'll see if I can do anything. Oh, talk to her, Tony. She's in the kitchen.
Thanks. Alice! Alice, won't you listen to me, please?
No, Tony, it's no use.
Alice, at least let me talk to you. You're not being fair.
Where'd they go? Oh, she walked right out the minute he came in.
Now, olive oil out of my hand.
How,
I'm gonna smell kind of like fish.
how are you, Mr. DePinna? Hand healing still hurting you?
No, it's better.
Everything burnt up, huh? Downstairs?
Everything. Even my Roman costume, too.
See? I told you there was a bright side to everything. All except my 23 years back income tax.
Tell me, Grandpa, what are you gonna do about that?
Well, I had an idea. I tried it, but I don't know if it's gonna work.
What is it?
Well, you see.
Evening, everybody.
Why, Mr. Kolenkov?
Evening, Kolenkov.
Forgive me. The door was open?
It's no problem. Come on in. Make yourself at home.
You will excuse my coming tonight. I realize you are upset.
That's all right, Mr. Kolenkov.
Oh, Mr. Kolenkov, I don't think I can take a lesson tonight. I'm not feeling up to it.
Well,
Oh, but do stay for dinner, Mr. Kolenkov. We have all that food, and someone's got to eat it.
I will be happy to, Madame Sycamore.
Well, fine.
Thank you. Now, I wonder if I know you well enough to ask of you a great favor.
Why, of course, Mr. Kolenkov.
You have heard me talk about my friend, the Grand Duchess Olga Katrina?
Yes.
She is a great woman, the Grand Duchess. Her cousin was the Tsar of Russia. And today, she is a waitress in Child's Restaurant, Times Square.
Yes, I know. If there's anything at all we can do, Mr. Kolenkov.
I tell you, the Grand Duchess has not had a good meal since before the revolution.
She must be hungry.
And today is not only her day off, Thursday, but it is also the anniversary of Peter the Great, a remarkable man.
Why? If you're saying you'd like to have the Grand Duchess come to dinner, why, we'd be honored.
Oh, yes!
In the name of the Grand Duchess Olga Katrina, I thank you.
Why, I can hardly wait to meet her. Where is she now?
She is outside in the street, waiting. I bring her in.
Imagine a Grand Duchess coming to dinner. Ed, straighten your jacket. Essie, your dress. Do I still look all right?
You know, if things like this keep happening, I want to live to be 150.
The Grand Duchess Olga Katrina! Your Highness, present Madame Sycamore, Madame Carmichael, Grandpa, Mr. Carmichael, Mr. Sycamore, and Mr. DePinna.
Now, Mr. DePinna.
Would you have a seat, Your Highness?
Thank you. You are most kind.
We are honored to receive you, Your Highness.
I am most happy to be here. How soon is dinner?
Oh, it'll be quite soon, I'm sure.
Good. I must not be late. I must be back at the restaurant by 8 o'clock. I am substituting for another waitress.
I will make sure you're on time, Your Highness.
Thank you, Kolenkov.
Sure, a lot of you folks living down here now, aren't there?
Of course. My uncle,
Seggy. He is elevator man at Macy's. A very nice man. Then there is my cousin, Prince Alexis. He will not speak to the rest of us because he works at Honey Carnegie. He is ladies' underwear.
But when he was selling hot dogs in Coney Island, he was willing to talk to you.
Uncle Incal, our time is coming. My sister, Natasha, she is studying to be a manicurist. And Uncle Seggy, they have promised to make Blombacher. And next month, I get transferred to Fifth Avenue Child. From there, it is only one step to Scraps. Then, we will see what Prince Alexis says.
I think you've got him.
You are telling me.
Your Highness, did you know the Tsar? Personally, I mean.
Of course, he was my cousin. It was terrible what happened to him, but perhaps it was for the best. Where will he get a job now?
Pravda, that is true.
And poor relations are poor relations. It is the same in every family. My cousin, the King of Sweden, he was very nice to us for about 10 years, even sending in a money order every once in a while. But then he said, I cannot go on. I am not doing so well myself. I do not blame him.
Of course not. Would you excuse me for a moment?
Tell me, Grand Duchess, is it true about the Rasputin?
Everyone wants to know about Rasputin. Yes, my dear sir, it is true. And how?
Don't say.
Your Highness, we have to watch the time.
Yes, I must not be late. The manager does not like me very much. He is a communist.
Oh, we'll tell them to hurry up. Essie, go help Reba in the kitchen.
Oh, I will help too. I'm a very good cook.
Oh, but Your Highness, not on your day off.
I do not
Mind
mind.
your manners.
That is your kitchen.
Yes.
Right through here. But you're the guest of honor, Your Highness.
But I love to cook. Come, Colin Cobb. If they have sour cream and pot cheese, I will make blintzes.
Ah, blintzes. Come, Pablo, we show you something.
Hey, Grand Duchess. She's all right, isn't she? Duchess, how can I help?
Gee, she's just got a wonderful face for a mask, hasn't she?
Yes. And such as a nice lady. You know, considering she's a Grand Duchess.
Yes. It's amazing what some people can go through and still keep a bit of gaiety about them.
Yes. She almost made me forget about everything for a moment.
I guess I'll call that cab, I suppose.
Oh, wait a minute, Paul. Perhaps Tony has...
Ed, will you go up and bring my bag down, please?
Don't you do it, Ed.
Ed, please.
All right, bring it down. Do you know you've got the stubbornest daughter in all 48 states?
Proud of it.
That must be the cab.
Oh, if it is, it's certainly wonderful service.
Is Tony here, Alice?
Yes, he is, Mr. Kirby. Come in.
How do you do?
Ah, good evening.
Good evening.
Forgive my intruding. Tony, I want you to come home with me. Your mother is very upset.
Very well, Father. Goodbye, Alice.
Goodbye, Tony.
I need hardly say that this is as painful to Mrs. Kirby and myself as it is to you people. I'm sorry, but I'm sure you understand.
Well, yes. And in a way, no. And I'm not the kind of person that tries to run other people's lives, Mr. Kirby. But from what I can tell, these two young folk don't have quite as much common sense as you and I.
Grandpa, will you please not do this?
Oh, now, Alice. I'm just talking to Mr. Kirby. A cat can look to a king, can't he?
You want me to do that for you, Alice?
No, Mother.
You got quite a while before the train goes, Alice.
Hello? Yes. Will you please send a cab to 761 Claremont? Yes. Right away, please. Thank you.
Alice.
Oh, Father.
Are you ready, Tony?
Now, Mr. Kirby, I'm supposing that after last night, You must think our family's rather strange, don't you?
No one would not say that. Although, I am not accustomed to going out to dinner and spending the night in jail.
Well, you have to remember, Mr. Kirby, you came on the wrong night. And now tonight, I promise you nothing will happen at all. Maybe.
Mr. Vanderhoff, it was not merely last night that convinced Mrs. Kirby and myself that this engagement will be unwise.
Father, I can handle my own affairs. Alice, for the last time, will you please marry me?
No, Tony. I know exactly what your father means, and he's right.
No, he isn't.
Alice, you love this boy. And when you're not marrying him because we're the kind of people we are.
Grandpa.
Now, I know you think the families wouldn't get along. Maybe they wouldn't. So what? Who's to say that they're right and we're wrong?
I'm not saying that. It's just...
Well, let me tell you how I feel. I feel that Tony here is too nice of a boy to wake up 20 years from now with nothing in his life but stocks and bonds.
How's that?
Oh, you know, mixed up and unhappy. The way you are.
I beg your pardon, Mr. Vanderhoff. I'm a very happy man.
Are you?
Certainly, I am.
No, you're not. Where do you suppose you get your indigestion from, Mr. Kirby? Happiness? No, sir. You get it because you spend most of your time doing things you don't want to do.
I don't do anything I don't want to do.
Yes, you do. You just said that last night at the end of a week of Wall Street, you're pretty near crazy. Well, where does the fun come in? Don't you think there ought to be something more, Mr. Kirby? You must have wanted more when you started out. You know, we don't have too much time, any of us.
What do you expect me to do? Live the way you do? Do nothing?
Well, I have a lot of fun. Time enough for everything. Read, talk, visit the zoo now and again, practice my darts, even have time to notice when spring rolls around. Don't see anybody I don't want to, and don't have 6 hours of things to do before I have 1 hour to get what I'd like in. Now, what's the matter with that?
The matter with that? Suppose we all did it. A fine world we'd have. Everybody going to the zoos. Don't be ridiculous, Mr. Vanderhoff. Who would do the work?
Those are people that do work. You can't stop them. Inventions, and they fly the ocean. There will always be people to go down to Wall Street, too, because they like it. But what I can tell, Mr. Vanderhoff, you're not one of them. I think you're missing something.
I'm not aware of missing anything.
Well, certainly not. Well, you have all the money in the world. You can't take it with you.
That's a very easy thing to say, Mr. Vanderhoff. But I spent my entire life building up my business.
And what has it got you? Same meals, same dinners, same board meetings, same indigestion. Don't you think there ought to be something more, Mr. Kirby? I'll tell you what.
What do you expect me to do? Live the way you do? Do nothing?
Well, I have a lot of fun. Time enough for everything. Read, talk, visit the zoo now and again, practice my darts. We've been over this. I have time to notice when spring rolls around. Don't see anybody I don't want to, and don't have 6 hours of things to do before I have 1 hour to get what I'd like in. Now, what's the matter with that?
The matter with that? Suppose we all did it. A fine world we have. Everybody going to the zoos. Don't be ridiculous, Mr. Vanderhoff. Who would do the work?
Well, there's always people that like to work. You can't stop them. Inventions, and they fly the ocean. There'll always be people to go down to Wall Street, too, because they like it. From what I can tell, Mr. Kirby, you're not one of them. I think you're missing something.
I'm not aware of missing anything.
Well, I wasn't either, till I quit. I used to go down to that office 9 a.m. sharp every morning. Lay awake in fear that I wouldn't get that contract. Used to worry about the world then, too. All worked up about whether Cleveland or Blaine would be elected president. Seemed rather important at the time. Oh, what does it matter now? What I'm trying to say, Mr. Vanderhoff, Kirby, is I have 35 years that no one can take away from me, no matter what they do to the world. See?
Yes, I do see. And it's a very dangerous philosophy, Mr. Vanderhoff. It's un-American. And it's exactly why I'm opposed to this marriage. I do not want Tony to come under its influence.
What's the matter with it, Father?
The matter with it? Why, it's downright communism, that's what it is.
You didn't always think so.
I most certainly did. What are you talking about?
Oh, yes, you did. I came across those letters that you wrote to Grandfather. Do you remember those?
No! Why, how dare you read those letters? How dare you?
Oh, yes, there was a time when you wanted to be a trapeze artist.
Tony!
Why, that's wonderful, Mr. Kirby! Did you wear tights?
Certainly not. This whole thing is absurd. I was only 14 years old at the time.
Yes, but at 18, you wanted to be a saxophone player.
Well, well, well.
And at 21, you ran away from home because Grandfather wanted you to go into the business. It's all right down there in black and white. You didn't always think so.
Well, well, well.
I may have had silly notions in my youth, but thank goodness my father knocked them out of me. I went into the business and forgot about them.
Not completely. There's still a saxophone in the back of your clothes closet.
There is?
That's enough, Tony. We'll discuss this later.
No, I want to talk about it now. I think Mr. Vanderhoff is right. Dead right. I'm never going back to that office. I've always hated it. And I'll tell you something else. Last night was not a mistake. I did it on purpose.
I knew it.
Why, for heaven's
sake? Because I wanted you to wake up. I wanted you to see a family as they really were. A family that loved and understood each other. You don't understand me. You've never had the time. Well, I'm not going to make your mistake. I'm clearing out.
Clearing out? What do you mean?
I mean, I'm not going to be pushed into the business just because I'm your son. I'm getting out while there's still time.
But Tony, what are you going to do?
I don't know. Maybe I'll be a bricklayer. At least I'll be doing something I want to do.
That must be the cab.
Tell him to wait a minute, Ed.
Grandpa.
Now, Alice. Mr. Kirby, what Tony's going through is exactly what you and I went through when we were his age. In fact, I bet if you listen closely enough, you can hear yourself saying the same thing to your father 25 years ago. We all did it, and we were right. How many of us would settle then for what we eventually get? It's only a lucky few that can say they came even close. So, what I'm trying to say, Mr. Kirby, is that before you clean out that broom closet, I get a few good hours in on that saxophone.
I beg your pardon, but before I make the blintzes, how many will there be to dinner?
Your Highness, Mr. Kirby and Mr. Kirby Jr. Kirby's. The Grand Duchess Olga Katrina.
How do you do? Before I make the blintzes, how many will there be to dinner?
Oh, I don't know, Grand Duchess. You might want to make quite a stack. You can't ever tell.
Good. The Tsar always said to me, Olga, do not be stingy with the blintzes.
Who do you say that was, Mr. Vanderhoff?
Oh, the Grand Duchess Olga Katrina.
Oh.
She's making dinner. Speaking of dinner, why don't you and Tony stay?
Oh, please do, Mr. Kirby. We're going to have all that stuff we were going to have last night. I mean, tonight.
How about it, Mr. Kirby? Looks like it's going to be quite a meal. Better give the families a chance to get to know each other.
What do you say, Father? Are we staying for dinner?
Why, if you care to, Tony, I'd very much like to.
Oh, Mr. Kirby. Tony, oh,
darling.
Grandpa, you're wonderful.
Oh, I know. I've been telling you that for years.
Here's a letter for you, Grandpa. It was in the icebox.
Oh, government.
How do you do, Mr. Kirby?
How do you do?
Won't you step into my office, Miss Sycamore? I'd like to do a little dictating.
Well, I guess I better go tell that cab.
Well, well, well.
What is it, Grandpa?
The United States government apologizes. It seems that I don't owe them a penny.
Why, what do they mean, Grandpa?
Well, do you remember Charlie, the milkman, buried under my name?
Yes.
Well, I simply told the government that they were mistaken. I was Martin Vanderhoff Jr. And so they said they're very sorry, and I may even be applicable for a refund.
Why, Grandpa, you old crook.
No, sure.
Pardon me? How do you say you escaped the income tax, Mr. Vanderhoff?
Well, you see.
My friends, you are going to eat. So,
Hello there.
how do you do?
Fine, fine. Glad to see you.
What has happened?
He's relaxing. Hey, play something.
You can't sit down.
Come on, everybody. Dinner's ready. Come on, Mr. Kirby.
Yes, yes, I'm coming.
How was your trip to the Adirondacks,
Stop
Miss
dancing.
Sycamore?
Shut your face, Mr. Kirby.
In Russia, when they sit down to dinner?
Quiet. Attention, everybody. Well, sir, here we are again. We'd like to give you thanks for everything. Life seems to be going very all right. Tony and Alice are going to get married, and they're going to be very happy. Of course, all the fireworks blew up, but that's Mr. DePina's fault. Not yours. We have our health, and as far as anything else is concerned, we'll leave it to you. Thank you.
We are having
Yeah?
roast goose for dinner, Mr. Kirby. Do you like roast goose?
Save me the
Like it?
step.
Why,
Where
that's
is
my
he
favorite
now?
dish.
Back in Moscow.
Back in Moscow.
I've got it in
Could've
his
used him
airbox.
I've written some special music on my xylophone.
We've got to start thinking about
Put it
next
right
year's
next to my
fireworks, Mr.
one
DePina.
from Persia.
Well, here goes to the Adirondacks.
And a very good thing, too.
Now let me have one of these rules.
Oh, jeez, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry.
Thank you.